thankful to God for finally answering their prayers. The child made them so happy they would often laugh together. So they called the baby Isaac, which means he laughs. The boy was a good reason to laugh and be happy. Abraham, the voice of God called, take your son, your special son Isaac. I know how much you love him, and this is why I ask you to do this difficult thing. I want you to give Isaac back to me. This meant Isaac would have to die. Abraham said nothing. The God he knew would never want Abraham to kill his own son. He knew that. God had promised that Isaac would have many children. How could that happen if Isaac were dead? Abraham knew he could choose not to trust God, say no, run in fear and try and hide. But who can hide from God? Or he could choose to trust. Perhaps there was more to God's plan than first seemed to be there. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and woke Isaac. Come, Isaac, we're going on a journey. Isaac was excited. He liked nothing better than to go travelling with his father. Abraham asked Isaac to carry the wood for the sacrifice they were going to make to God, while he carried the knife. Isaac had often worshipped the Lord with his father. He knew how important it was to give thanks to God for all the good things God gave them. But this time, his father was quieter than usual, and besides there was something missing. Father? Isaac asked. Yes, my son, Abraham replied. The fire and wood are here, Isaac said. But where is the lamb which we usually offer? Abraham answered, God will provide one. After 3 days of travel, they reached their destination. Abraham told Isaac to climb onto the altar. Isaac didn't know what his father intended to do. Abraham stood over Isaac, holding the knife up high. He was just about to kill his son when an angel called to him from heaven, Abraham! Abraham! Abraham stopped, his hand in mid-air. Don't hurt the boy. Your willingness to do what God asked shows that you trust God with everything, even the life of your special son Isaac. Abraham looked and saw a ram whose horns were caught in a nearby bush. That was the offering God had provided. Isaac was still trembling as his father helped him from the altar. The angel called down from heaven again. Abraham, God says that because you trusted him completely, he will make your family as many as the stars in the sky. All the other nations in the world will be blessed through you. Many years later, Abraham told his servant, Go back to my homeland and find a wife for Isaac. This was a nearly impossible mission. There were so many women. The servant prayed to Abraham's God all during the journey. Finally, he arrived by a well in the land where Abraham once lived. He prayed, Lord of my master Abraham, you choose the woman you know is right for Isaac. Show me clearly who she is. If I ask her for some water, and she says, Drink and I'll water your camels too, then I'll know she's the one. Soon the servant saw a group of young women coming towards him. He asked one of them, Please, give me a little water from your jar. This was the test. What would she answer? She said, Drink, and I'll water your camels too. The servant was very excited. It didn't take long for the servant to explain his mission to her. He found out her name was Rebecca. Soon she was on her way to becoming Isaac's wife. On the day when the servant and Rebecca arrived, Isaac was meditating in the fields. He looked up and saw the camels coming towards him. Who is that beautiful woman there? He wondered. At the same time, Rebecca looked towards Isaac. Who is that handsome man? She asked Abraham's servant. That is Isaac. She quickly covered her face with her veil, but her eyes shone when Isaac stopped her camel. It was love at first sight. God had known just the right person to care for Isaac, and just the right person to care for Rebecca. Abraham's heart was warm with joy when he saw how much Isaac loved Rebecca. He felt it was time for Isaac to take over as head of the family. Now I can die, he thought. After a long life, which had lasted 175 years, Abraham died. Isaac buried him next to Sarah. Isaac and Rebecca tried to obey God in whatever they did. They asked God's help whenever they made decisions about where to live, how to judge right from wrong, and forgiving people who did wrong. With God's help, they lived good lives. But as the years went by, they still didn't have a little girl or boy. Rebecca and Isaac waited and waited. Finally, Isaac prayed to God, asking him to make it possible for Rebecca to have a baby. A short time later, God answered Isaac's prayer, but not in the way they expected. There was not one baby growing inside Rebecca, but two. She was expecting twins. The babies got bigger and bigger. When it was almost time for them to be born, Rebecca could often feel their little feet pushing against her. Isaac liked to put his hand on her and feel the babies moving inside. One night, Rebecca woke up suddenly. The babies had been kicking and hitting each other so hard she hurt inside. She prayed to God. Lord, what is happening? Are my babies all right? If I hurt when they push and shove, they must hurt too. Why is this happening? God answered her. The two boys you carry will one day be fathers of whole nations. One people will be stronger than the other, and the elder son will do what the younger tells him. The time finally came for Rebecca to have her babies. The eldest, the first one to be born, was red, and the whole of his body was covered with hair. He was called Esau, which means hairy. His brother followed him, his tiny hand holding on to Esau's foot. Because of this, his parents named him Jacob, which means he grabs the heel.